When it comes to travelling, most people take photos and post them on Facebook. Some people write blogs. I make videos and review. It's pretty much the way I do things. So for 2 months I travelled and I observed and pretty much did whatever. You may think of this as a blog meets documentary, or a blogumentary, copyright 2013, but whatever you may call it, these are my experiences. Me and my mate Prash travelled out from our small city of Perth, Australia, all the way up to Bali. It's a common place for the people of Perth to go because it's cheap and straightforward to travel to. It's just straight up north. We started things off a bit slow with a bit of relaxation, but of course there were still the occasional moments of craziness. But Bali was a good time and it was good to just get away from things just for a while. But enough of that, on to the main events, the United States of America. Our first city was Los Angeles, the city of dreams, the city of angels, or just a big city with a population of 3.8 million. Our first interaction with anyone was our taxi driver. He was talkative, as most taxi drivers are, and he was a good guy. We got talking about his life, and we ended up asking if we liked his job. His response was that he had no choice. He used to have a high-profile job, but with the downturn of the economy he was forced into driving taxis. He still told us his hopes and dreams to one day drive to his home country. The economy was the issue on everyone's lips. Everywhere you turned, you could hear people talking about it. There was a lot of uncertainty. People just aren't sure when things are just going to get back to normal. But realistically speaking, $60 trillion of debt isn't something that you can just sweep under the carpet. Things are starting to collapse and people are feeling the effects. But enough about that. Back to LA. LA. Place where Segways still exist and so do rollerblades. A city where anything and everything happens all at once. It's a city of contrast. On the one hand you have areas such as the Hollywood Hills and Venice Beach, serene and pleasant, but you step over a few streets and then you'll find the homeless. The homeless situation along the west coast is the worst in the country, but more on that later. And I'm not sure if it's the crack epidemic of the 80s all over again, but LA houses a lot of the clinically insane. For example, there was this guy that we found shouting to himself as he crossed the street. And no, there's nothing underneath that skirt. These are just my observations as a foreigner and I'm really not trying to offend anyone. But anyway, let's see what some of the locals have to say about their city.
LA is, well, my name is Dada, and I think LA, I like it because there's always something to get into. I don't know what else to tell you.
Maybe the weather is what brought me out here. I lived in the Chicagoland area, and I mean had 12 feet of snow in 1 month one year, and then 80-mil wind chills, and I said, that's enough, so I came out here.
My name is Michael Horst. I'm a singer here in LA, and there's so much opportunity here. There's a lot of avenues to make friends.
LA is huge and you'll definitely need a car to get around for sure. There's no real city centre and the whole city is kind of just sprawled out all over the place. So if it's your first introduction to the USA, it could be a bit overwhelming at first. And then of course you have the whole celebrity aspect to it, such as the Hollywood Walk of Fame and Hollywood Boulevard. It was a bit tacky to be honest, and there were a lot of fake people around in general. But some people can be into that kind of thing. I'll just take this opportunity to outline some of the things that struck me the most about the USA in general. There's much more choice and many more avenues to go down, but life is definitely harder here. I met a guy in Savannah who had 2 of his friends shot and killed in the past 2 months, but we'll get to that story a bit later. The city itself I didn't really admire, to be honest. In saying that, I had some of the coolest times of my trip there. Let me tell you why. We were staying on North Fairfax in West Hollywood, and there I met Josh from Sweden. He was probably one of the most down-to-earth people I've ever met.
I don't know.
Alright, whenever you're ready, man.
I have to figure out what to say. My hometown. It's easier to say what I like about it somewhere else.
As it turns out, Josh's girlfriend knows some of the band members from the Swedish band Emmanuel. I happened to sample one of their songs in a song I put together, after which the lead singer added me on Facebook. Cutting to the chase, there's a small chance that he could be watching this very video. Little things like this kept happening throughout my trip, and it kind of reminded me how small the world is actually getting.
I wouldn't say Amsterdam, but it's not because of the weed, it's because of the actual
Place.
place.
Okay.
I'm Josh, I'm from Sweden. My favorite place I've traveled to, I would say Fernie, Canada. It's awesome, they have a lot of snow, and in the summer it's really, really hot, so it's just a perfect place to live.
And this is Gina. Josh and Gina randomly met at a local juice bar. They both happened to order the same drink, and they both hated it. They both got talking about their mutual hate for this drink, and the rest is history. We all ended up getting acquainted, and Gina decided to show us an art festival in downtown LA. Yep, downtown LA, the place where you do not go as a tourist. I was a bit nervous at first, but I thought I'd take my chances. I thought it was pretty incredible how a local could take some time out of their day and show some random dumb tourists around their city. No one in their right mind in Perth would ever do that. So at this point, I realised that I was kind of wrong about my stereotypical assumptions of the American people. We took a bus and a train and arrived downtown in about an hour or so.
What I love about LA?
Yeah.
I love that I can come down, I can meet people from different cultures by just walking down the street and hanging out with them. And I love that I can go to the beach, snow, one day, and I love that I can smoke weed on the streets. And I love that I can dress like a freak and nobody cares. What I hate about LA, I hate that it smells like piss when you go downtown. And I hate half of the girls that live here because they're really stupid and have plastic surgery. And all the fake tits.
Downtown LA wasn't that bad at all. There's only one car chase and no shootings while we were there. In general, we all got along pretty well, which amazed me. Josh and Gina both love photography. They even happen to have the same old school film camera. I would often say that extra thought that Gina was thinking, and all four of us loved music. Gina was the worst tour guide ever, but she was cool about it. We finally found the galleries and got to know some of her local mates as well.
Australian people, this is Gina's friend Will.
What do you like best about Minnesota?
Not the weather.
What do you like best?
What do you like best? I don't know. The sandwiches?
Sandwiches.
And what do you like best about LA?
Weather?
And what do you like least about LA?
The sandwiches?
We had some pretty fun moments in the few short days that we hung out. It was all very new for me, so that's why I think it was such a great start to my American experience. We also caught up with Adam, my mate from Perth, for a Jay Leno show, but unfortunately he had a bad case of the liquid thunder, so no footage of him exists. Well, I think this LA cat is telling us to move on to the next city.
This is that fresh feeling. Words can't be that strong. My heart is reeling. This is that fresh.
We caught a bus and a train from Los Angeles to San Francisco in what was a 650 kilometer 7-hour journey. I took this time to think of what could be in store for the rest of the trip. As we left the train and looked for a taxi, I had a pressing feeling. Something was wrong and I couldn't put my finger on it. It turns out that I had actually left the bass guitar that I had bought in LA on the train. San Francisco, population of 800,000 in the Sunshine State. It turns out that we got along so well with Josh that he decided to book a few extra nights in the hostel that we had already pre-booked in San Fran. I really did like this city, and I do recommend that you should check it out if you're anywhere along the west coast.
San Francisco, you're going. San Francisco, we going, don't you know?
It's a mix of quaint architecture with rampant hills and great scenery. It's a great place to just take a bike and ride around, which is exactly what we did. The locals are friendly and also good-natured. And of course there's a famous Golden Gate Bridge, which is actually red. As we approached the bridge on our bikes, looking out over the bay was a pretty reflective experience. Built in 1937, the 2.7 kilometre long, 27 metre wide, 227 metre tall bridge is an engineering marvel. Said that 1.2 million steel rivets hold the structure together. It's no wonder the bike path turns into a mini freeway of its own with tourists. As we looked out over the edge of the bridge, it was clear that this afternoon would stick in my mind for a long time. So what about the nightlife? In short, pretty good. We were lucky enough to party with the NBA team, Miami Heat. It just happened to be two of the players' birthdays at the club we were at. In a set of strange events, I got let in for free when one of the players told the bouncer that I was actually with him. I'm not making this up. It was pretty funny and definitely pretty sweet, but he abandoned me immediately though. At night, San Fran has a bit of a buzz about it. Probably not as much as some of the larger cities, but the city is still alive with buskers and performers and general atmospheres. Later on we made it out to Alcatraz. You know that famous unescapable prison? Of the 36 people that attempted to escape, 23 were caught, 6 were shot and killed, 2 drowned, and 5 are listed as missing. The prison itself was pretty cool because it was left largely as it would have been in the early 60s. From the prison you get a perfect view of San Francisco City. It was said that this was to let the prisoners know what they were missing out on each and every day. It was also said that if the wind was blowing just right, you can hear the sounds of the city, such as music and even laughter. A city that has a darker side. The homeless situation in San Francisco is more pronounced than anywhere else. The milder weather makes street living more manageable. I really wanted to see what it was like, so I grabbed my camera and hit the back streets. I got hassled for having a camera a few times, so I had to move quickly. It was definitely disheartening to see, and I really hope the city finds a solution soon. With the economy being the way that it is, it's probably going to take some time. Godspeed, San Fran. Leaving on a positive note, San Francisco was definitely one of my favourite cities. You'll find that most people that have ever been there would say the same. Also, I think the San Fran cat is telling us it's time to move on.
No one sees me anyway, and I am a ghost.
We took a quick flight further up north still to Vancouver, Canada. And it's true what they say, those Canadians are actually really friendly and really chilled out. Ironically, I met a Canadian whose dream travel destination was actually Bali. The city itself was stunning. Just picture built-up urbanised areas with some of the most amazing snow-capped mountains as a backdrop. In one of my random walks down Vancouver's main streets, I came across a band called Sons of Granville. The band was named after Vancouver's main strip, Granville Street. I caught up with a violinist after the show.
Hi, my name is Thomas Beckman. My band is Sons of Granville. We just played. What I love about Vancouver? Well, I love the nature. I love the fact that we're close to the sea and the mountains. But I think one thing I love about Vancouver is it's a very new city, and it's like a blank canvas. You can do whatever you want here. So yeah, a lot of freedom.
Unfortunately, there's no cat here to tell us to move on to the next city. We flew across country all the way to New York. Now I'm going to say this now, if you're starting to get tired of watching this, don't fear. I'm just going to be going over the city quickly, and then I'll spend 10 to 15 seconds on each of the rest of the cities that I visited. And then we'll wrap it up. Before that, let's take a quick break before we hit the Big Apple. New York City. With a population of 8.4 million, it's the most highly populated city in the whole of the United States. All of those people are squished into the size of 800 square kilometers. This brings about the famous melting pot effect. Every type of person on Earth can be found here. I was pretty excited to finally reach the city that I've heard so much about and seen in so many movies so many times. But once I'd gotten over that, it was time to grab my camera and explore. Unfortunately, we arrived on one of the most coldest days of the year. It dropped to 12 degrees Fahrenheit or minus 11 degrees Celsius while we were there. That in itself would have been fine, but the wind was very strong, so no matter how many layers you chucked on top, the cold just cut straight through. The wind chill factor drove the temperature down to something like minus 26 degrees Celsius. You could hear the locals cursing on their phones about how cold it was to the person on the other end of the line. Despite this, we hit up the famous Times Square, and while we were there we saw something pretty strange. That's right, I don't know if you can see, but there's a man playing guitar and singing in nothing but a cowboy hat and jogs. Nobody was quite sure how this guy was still alive, but nonetheless it was still pretty entertaining to see. The city itself is very diverse, and I think that's one of the coolest things about it. You can walk a few blocks in the city centre and be faced with a completely different look and feel. And as usual, we met some pretty awesome people at our hostel. As a side point, I did really like the subway system. It was clear, robust and simple. I guess you'll need a system like that to move 8.4 million people around. My only complaint really was the smell. But apart from that, it was intuitive and easy to get around. We took a quick look around the Bronx, and I don't know if you know, but in the late 70s the Bronx was the dingiest of holes. A wave of arson swept through the area, and it was said that there were as many as 60 fires burning per day. This was most famously highlighted in the 1977 World Series, when the TV cameras panned away from the stadium and focused on the burning skyline. Since then, the Bronx has been tainted with this image, but in the last 10 years there's been a lot of development, and it's really come up a bit. You still do have to watch out at night though. And of course, we all remember those events 12 years ago. We went to pay our respects at the memorial, and you could clearly see that there was still a lot of pain after more than a decade later. The rebuilding continues in the form of the 540 metre tall One World Trade Center. It will be completed in late 2013 and is currently the tallest building in New York. While you were there, you could still see some signs of damage from Hurricane Sandy, but the city is strong and has rebounded quickly. As you may have guessed, I didn't touch on everything. I missed out the beautiful Central Park, Statue of Liberty, Empire State Building, and a lot more. You need at least a week to see everything, but New York is definitely a must-see city. Okay, so now it's time to speed things up a bit, and we're going to do that with a little thing called CONTIKI. CONTIKI is basically a tour where you're with a group of people and you visit different cities within the country. Our tour consisted of 50 people, and we travelled to 16 cities in 26 days. So as I said, I'll spend 10 to 15 seconds in each city, and then we'll wrap it up. If this concept sounds fun, that's because it is. CONTIKI was one of the most insane times I've had in my entire life. After New York was Washington DC, the nation capital. There was a fair bit to see and do here. Monuments, museums, art galleries. It was actually pretty interesting, and I learnt a lot in my time there. The city was also one of the cleanest that I had been to, and I did enjoy it quite a bit. We stayed the night in Cary and then drove down to Savannah, where I met two locals, Chip and Joel. Chip's friend was shot in a case of mistaken identity. The last words he said to Chip were, "I owe you one." Another one of Chip's friends was shot in a carjacking. Chip's other friend, Joel, argued that people need guns in the US, and told me a story of how an unloaded gun saved his life when a mentally unstable person threatened his life with a knife. Me and Chip ended up jamming outside my hotel till 6 in the morning. From Savannah, we stayed a night in St. Augustine, Cocoa Beach, and then drove to Miami. Miami was a good looking city, and it was one of my favourites. Seeing something like a Ferrari or a Bentley wasn't a rare sight. There was a large Spanish population, and it seemed to be stuck in the 80s, in the sense that having a lot of wealth and power was the in thing to do. We drove up to Orlando and checked out Universal Studios, and it just blew past all my expectations. Even if you're like me and not so much into theme parks, if you get a chance, go, go, go. It is amazing. We drove to Tallahassee and then up into New Orleans. New Orleans was a demographically poorer city, and Hurricane Katrina damage was still evident, but the people there had soul.
Hi, it's Leslie, I'm born and raised right here, and what I love here about the most is that I'm from here, born and raised here, we welcome y'all, we love our city, we're proud.
And they're pretty proud about the culture they have as well. We arrived at a pretty good time. We arrived during Mardi Gras, And for Australians watching, Mardi Gras isn't the gay and lesbian festival like it is in Australia. It's actually more along the lines of Carnival in Rio. So basically just a big blow-up party where people dress up and go crazy. New Orleans was also a very musical city, and speaking of music, we drove out to Memphis. There we visited Graceland, the house of Elvis Presley. We also went to where it all began, Sun Studios. I then finished off the afternoon with a jam at the Gibson factory. We continued to Dallas, Texas, right in the heart of the South. We took a day trip out to Fort Worth, and it's exactly how Texas looks in the movies. The CBD area was much more built up than I had expected, and as they say, everything is bigger in Texas. I went out to see the JFK Museum. It was very well done and quite intense. Until that point, I really didn't know how much JFK had done for the country back in that era. As it turns out, he was assassinated from that very window, the one on the mid-right, back in 1963. Or was he?
Well, there are several witnesses that have never been shown on national TV, and this lady took film from the old Red Courthouse. Her name is Patsy Pascal, and she's the only one to film the grassy knoll from a high elevation. And she said she saw smoke coming from the knoll, and I was the first one to interview her. My name's Mark Oaks.
He'd spent a lot of years interviewing people. We travelled out of Dallas to Amarillo and then on to Albuquerque and rode some hot air balloons at dawn. And then there was Colorado. So while I was just chilling out at the lodge, I had an interview with one of the non-Australians on CONTIKI.
Hey.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
Okay, my name is Savannah. I'm 24 years old. I'm from Switzerland.
Yeah.
And we are here on CONTIKI with crazy Australians, and it's so much fun. And what I love in Switzerland is the mountains. I really miss the mountains. And yeah.
As we drove out to the Grand Canyon, I began to realise that this whole adventure was going to end pretty soon. Everyone in our group was really cool and got along extremely well. Our tour guide said that our group was one of the best he'd ever had. I took a helicopter ride over the Grand Canyon, and let's just say, however big you thought the Grand Canyon is nothing compared to its real size. Our final stop and grand finale was none other than Las Vegas. And well, let's just say, whatever happens in Vegas stays in Vegas, really. But here's what I can reveal. Las Vegas was crazy. Off the charts, over the top, and whatever other words you can use to describe that vibe. It had literal palaces, fitted with Greek-style column structures, complete with fake skies painted on the interior ceiling. Vegas is ridiculous. It's the closest thing you'll get to another world. Everything is done to perfection and to the extreme. The interiors are fitted out with the craziest of expensive ornaments. The casinos are always buzzing, regardless of the time of day or even the day of the week. You'd often see the occasional high roller, decked out in the most expensive attire, a symbol of what Las Vegas stands for. There's just so much money pouring through here, it's just hard to get your head around. By the night, the city shifts into 7th gear, and things get even crazier. Let's just say both nights spent here were complete blowouts. All of us on the CONTIKI tour had spent close to a month together. We wanted to make the most of the last nights on the trip, so we went hard. For better or for worse, no footage exists because I didn't want to risk my camera. And then it was time to calm things down, as we went back to my starting point, LA. And before we all finally parted ways, I decided to have one last chat with a couple of people that travelled the CONTIKI tour with me. Some Australians this time.
Hi, my name's Jess. I'm 21 from Hobart. What I liked most about CONTIKI was all the Australian people. And what I like best about my hometown is the local music scene, because everyone knows everyone and there's always a gig on no matter what day of the week it is. And what I like least about my hometown is it's really small and it's really cold.
And the last person I had a chat to was Emily. Unfortunately, my camera deleted all the official footage of her and her interviews, so the footage that we have remaining is not the greatest, to say the least.
Testing! How about like focusing? Focusing.
That was pretty ridiculous. Even though that footage is all you had to go by, she was an awesome person to get to know. And so was everyone else on the CONTIKI tour. So that is it. 2 months, 19 cities, and over 5,000 kilometers of driving. All the people I met, and all the things I did, and all the places I traveled to, it all added up to be an epic trip. And thank you guys for sticking around and watching till the end, and getting a taste of my experience. I hope you enjoyed that, or at least learned something from it. So for all you Americans out there, you guys have a pretty cool country. I'll leave you with this.